r/ask Reddit. Redditors with real life butterfly effect stories. What happened and what was the series of events and outcomes? I was going out to grab pizza and a case of beer for me and my roommate, but he texted me that he had a stomach thing, so I walked to a restaurant and ordered dinner at the bar and met a girl there, and now we are married and have 2 kids because my roommate had diarrhea. I can totally see a child telling the short version of this story to someone that doesn't really care, but the kid just hear it and repeats, "My dad married my mom because his roommate has diarrhea." Pregnant cousin usually takes the bus at around 5:10 p.m. after work. She was about to hop inside the bus, but she needed to pee really badly and the commute is about an hour long, so she decided to go to the restroom instead and just catch the next bus. That 5:10 bus ended up falling from a cliff. I was walking to school and got distracted by a hedgehog that ran in a bush next to me, then a big ass tree branch fell in front of me. Would have crushed me if I didn't get distracted by a spiky little mouse scurrying in the bushes. I gave him a dead cricket the next day. He took it and ran off. Godspeed, spiky mouse. Received an incredibly high paying job offer to run our biggest competitor's team. Told my boss, even though I loved my job, but it was more than double what I was making. Boss agreed to a reasonable raise. Still not near the offer. I decided to stay because I genuinely loved my team co-workers, and the money wasn't enough to leave that happy place. In exchange, I had to take up another account that meant a business trip I didn't have in the plans. Went on that trip and met my future husband. Couple of years later, we went on our honeymoon at a new resort in St. Lucia. Ran into someone I knew from homework. Turns out, the team that I'd been given the job offer for had made so much money that they had booked the same resort to celebrate. I sat there and went, wow, life is nuts. Would have ended up there. Either way. Okay, this is sort of sobering along the lines of fate. I procrastinated one day in high school by watching a foreign musical on YouTube. I ended up trying to learn the lyrics and eventually the language. That led me to discovering the field of linguistics, which I'm now majoring in. I don't know what I'd be doing now had I actually started doing my homework that day instead. I have a similar story. I procrastinated one day in high school and that led to me being depressed. If my biological mom hadn't asked her parents to watch me for a couple hours and then left town, I wouldn't have had the incredible and privileged life that I was given through adoption. My younger half brothers were raised by our biological mom and they are a total freaking mess. I'm more of a mom to them than their actual mom. And I would have been an absolute wreck also if she'd kept me. Instead, I was given an amazing private education, all the sports and musical adventures, and most important, a healthy, loving home with 2 parents who taught me that just because you share blood doesn't mean you love. And just because you didn't give birth to a child doesn't mean you can't be their parent. Thanks for this. We decided after our devastation over the detention of children at the US border that we would do what we could to help kids in our own backyard. We got licensed through foster care and immediately got a little boy. Heard we may be getting a little girl soon as well. Crazy, hard, amazing, precious experience. The wife and I were having dinner in Hawaii one night on vacation. As we were getting up to leave, I noticed she hadn't finished her beer. I told her she should finish the beer since we paid some ridiculous price for it. Fast forward 30 seconds and we leave the restaurant and are walking the 3 blocks back to the hotel. About 50 feet in front of us as we're walking down the sidewalk on the left side of the road. A car comes flying out of a side street from the right and crosses through the street, hops the sidewalk in front of us, and smashes into a wall. If she didn't finish her beer, we would have been smoked by the car and most likely squished between the car and the wall. We always finish our beer now. If you hadn't drank at all, you could have had an action movie scene with a car crashing behind you as you casually walk down the street. Nearly every single friend I have in college is because one day in my gen ed health class we had to pick a seat that would become our seat for the semester. When I came in there weren't many seats left, and the people I sat next to ended up becoming my best friends and introduced me to all of my other friends in one way or another. Almost everything that has happened in my life for the past 8 years is a direct result of me literally flipping a coin to decide between 2 colleges. I play the sport I do, have the friends I do, I'm dating the person I am, and very nearly every other aspect of my life is because a nickel landed on heads. At the end of 6th grade, my class took a field trip on a whale watch. That night, I saw a commercial for a documentary TV series on whales. Ever since that day, I wanted to grow up and protect whales from being hunted. Today I work in the military specializing in marine preservation. Cool, I didn't even know that the military worked at marine preservation. This happened 2 days ago. It was early in the morning and as I'm about to leave for work when my mom reminded me that I forgot my water bottle on the table while I was walking out. For whatever reason I decided to go leave my backpack in the car and then walk back into the house for the water bottle. Well, that took about maybe 10 seconds total. It started to rain heavily on my way to work and couldn't see very well, but I noticed the brake lights of the cars ahead stopping suddenly and some moving off onto the shoulder and decided to slow down and put the hazard lights on for the people behind to slow down. Well, turns out everyone was braking because a 4-5 car accident had just happened seconds before. All the cars were scattered across the highway, spread across the left-right shoulders, and another had hit the crash barrier. Basically a total bad mess. The drivers were still in their cars, I guess, processing what had just happened. After seeing it, I immediately started to think that if I hadn't gone back for the water bottle, there's a chance that I could have easily been in the accident or at least even closer to it. It tripped me out for the rest of the day. Got arrested for growing weed. Moved back home. Got first job I could at IKEA. After working there for over a year, randomly decided to check Craigslist for jobs and saw an opening at a cafe and they were hiring right then. So instinctively went for it. The cafe was connected and owned by one of the most popular brew pubs beer gardens in the area. They hired me to host there. Quickly worked my way up the ranks to eventually bar manager. Met girl of my dreams. We are now married with 2 amazing kids. Opened 2 more restaurants with them and currently assistant director of operations. Overseeing 3 restaurants at 3, 5, and 8 million a year in sales. Love my job. Love my family. Love my life. No idea what I'd be doing if I never got arrested or never applied for the cafe job. High school. I didn't get into the AP history class wanted. Changed up my schedule, including a different gym class. Without everyone I knew, I was heartbroken. I really wanted to teach, and without an AP class senior year, I was screwed. Made a new friend in gym class, who was wearing a volunteer firefighter shirt. He had just joined, seemed interesting, and he invited me to check it out. They paid for me to get my EMT. Fell in love with healthcare. Fast forward quite a while, and I'm a nurse and precept students and new nurses, teaching them how to survive in the air. I also do public outreach and injury prevention, and I love it. Glad I missed out on my class. IDK if this counts. But during the Sri Lankan Civil War, my dad and his family were chased out of their home and were forced to seek shelter at his cousin's house a couple towns over. His cousins only had one neighbor, and that neighbor was my mom and her family. They used to meet up at the fence dividing their lawns and talk for months. One of the pictures from their wedding was them at that fence. Entering middle school, I had to choose between foreign language or music. I made my decision. My mother came into my room later that night to make sure I was certain in my choice. I chose music, which led me to pilot training, to radio, to my ex-wife, my kids, Massachusetts, twice, my new partner, and a career in IT. I can trace my entire adult life to a decision I made in 5th grade. Holy crap, me too. Parents asked in 8th grade what I wanted to do. Said nothing was more important than orchestra. Orchestra led to high school music theory. HS music theory gave me an opportunity to compose for a major symphony. After my composition was performed, I was approached by someone in the audience with a job offer. They paid for my schooling at a music conservatory, and now I compose full time. College also led me to find my husband and have my daughter. Crazy how life works like that. How something so simple can evolve into something so great. Mom died when I was 3. If she hadn't died, my children wouldn't exist. The short version, my dad wouldn't have remarried and we wouldn't have moved and I wouldn't have met my husband. The source of my deepest grief also gave me my greatest joy. Getting my ears pierced the day after I graduated high school got me where I am today. I worked at McDonald's at the time and was scheduled to work that night. Before my shift, my girlfriend at the time convinced me to get my ears pierced. Well, when I showed up to my shift with these clear ear studs in, my manager gave me an option. Either take them out or go home. Being only 17 and not taking anything seriously, I went home. On my way home, I called that girlfriend's dad and asked if I could work with him laying tile. He gave me a chance, and I quit McDonald's that day. Worked with him for about a year until the 0809 feet recession caused us to run out of work. I got laid off. 4 months later, I landed a job in a new hospital doing admitting in the emergency room. Did that for 2 years before I got my phlebotomy certification. Been doing that for a few years and now I'm in my final semester of nursing school. I attribute everything I've done to that day my ex-girlfriend pressured me into getting my ears pierced. Who knows how long I would have stayed at McDonald's. I was very little and singing a song completely with made up words. My mom asked what it was, and I said Evelynese. My name is Evelyn. Then a year later I made up a fake country for that fake language, Evelyneness. Then I started making up some stories. Now it's a little over a decade later. I'm in high school, and I have a whole fictional world with 3 political superpowers that I won't name for personal reasons. But just know Evelyneness has a better name now. This world has a very intricate map of ecosystems, and soon, political borders of various eras. 5 distinct cultural and ethnic groups so far, and some unique flora and fauna. Former Evelyneness specifically has 20 families of nobility, 237 common families, a religion, a specific type of domesticated big cat, the bones of a conlang, 2 epics in the works, the first being adapted from older stories I made up, and much more. I'm probably going to work on this until the day I die, all because toddler me wanted to throw some snark at my mom. So my then girlfriend now wife were planning on going away traveling for a very long time, several years. The night before we left I was just packing my things and at the last minute I decided to include some camera stuff. I had an SLR that I didn't really use too much. I very nearly didn't bring it because it was big and space was at a premium. While we were away one of the things we did was work in a wildlife rehab center. At the time we were there it was very quiet. Very few baby kangaroos to look after, but we had to be ready as it could change in an instant. Like in one day 3 could come in and boom. Full-time job. I used the spare time to really get to grips with the camera and learn about photography in general. For now I'm a wildlife cameraman. Had I decided to leave the camera I never would be doing what I'm doing, which is sitting in a freezing cold shed for hours at a time waiting for some animals to do something that they're not doing. I realize that I have come full circle in being a loser. Years ago, I was a cashier in a Walmart type store and lived in a trailer park in number 38. Over a 25-year period, I went to college twice, 2 one-year programs, bought a house, got married, got divorced, sold a house, been single mom, had my own little retail business, yet never really got anywhere. I now work back as cashier in a Sobeys type store and live across the street in the same trailer park in number 48. It is incredibly disheartening to know that after all my efforts, I have gone absolutely nowhere in life. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.